keep finding ways that we're helping partners, finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose.
Practices that are going to help improve your project management skills or your finances.
We're here to talk about setting long-term goals and then how to achieve them.
Increasing your quality, therefore becoming the best place in town to work. Welcome to Academy Live.
Welcome back to another episode of Academy Live. Today's show is all about marketing strategies for MSPs. Our guest is James LaVine. He's a senior executive coach at Pax8 Academy. James was very excited to take on the updating of our instructor-led course on this very topic, and he has tons of experience in MSP-focused marketing. But you'll hear all about that later on. First, I want to take this opportunity to say that we are approaching one year anniversary of Academy Live. Yay! The show launched on April 11th, 2023. Let's take a look at the graphic. I know Rex, Chris, and I are really proud of how far we've come, and we're excited for the next year ahead. We're going to be looking back at the last year near the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. First, let's hear from Keith Marciano in another installment of Sales Pitch. Take it away, Keith.
Play ball! Spam. Remember Spam from back in the day? That delicious meat in the can. I get this from service provider owners that I coach. What activities should my salespeople do? How many calls a week should they make? I even have some salespeople that wear it like a badge of honor. Hey, I make 100 phone calls a day. Popular sales wisdom says this: if you want to make more money, clear out your schedule and make 100 cold calls a day. To me, this sounds like total madness. In my mind, 100 calls a day equals 100 upset people, or likely 100 people who just really ignored you. Cold calling or cold emailing are really a band-aid. It's never the solution. You're repelling rather than attracting. Can you remember the last time that somebody interrupted your day by phone, by email, to try to sell you something that you didn't need? What was your reaction? Did you even pick up the phone or answer that email? Sales is a skill. It's not an activity or a cadence. Phone and email, they're great tools to use when you're communicating with people that know you and that you know, right? So let's touch all the bases on how to build familiarity and trust. 1. Post thought leadership articles on the internet that your target prospect will read. Information about their industry and problems that you solve in their industry. 2. Public speaking events where your target client prospect will go. Be known as a subject matter expert in solving business and technical issues for certain industries. 3. Build an online presence that's going to attract your target market. Things that they will care about, topics that they will want to see and learn more about. 4. Build a group of partners, centers of influence, who will introduce you to the right people and vouch for you on your behalf and connect you with them. So you start doing those things, sure enough, when you strike the right nerve with enough people, your phone is going to start to ring. It's magical. So yes, generating inbound sales leads takes time and patience, but it's way better than spamming your business community. Play ball!
Keith, That sales pitch is on base. I got to tell you, one of my favorite things is to ask our great clients, what industry events do you attend? And ask them, are they looking for speakers? Because usually they go to these monthly meetings and they'll just hang out and look at each other, and they're hungry to have speakers. And when you come in and give a presentation about that great solution you did for your client and you get that warm introduction, you instantly have credibility. And if you do that, you're going to find some amazing sources of leads. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I love that he starts off kind of like, how effective really is it? If you really think about you being interrupted, that's not really an effective way to make those contacts. And as he gives those examples, I think about, uh, being able to leverage those relationships. That's really the way to go in the amount of effort. Bessie, I know you in working on the instructor-led courses and the, our result selling framework, this came up a lot, I'm sure. Do you have anything you
Oh,
want
yeah.
to comment on?
Quite a bit. I think, yeah, focusing in on those centers of influence, who are the people that are going to connect you to the people that are going to help get you sales, right? And finding out who those people are and being a giver too, of like, if you know someone that's going to be a great referral for them, trade back and forth, be that influence for someone else too. So yeah, I agree. And when he was talking about that, I was just thinking about my email inbox and how many emails I get spammed with. And I just hit block, delete
Yeah,
junk mail, and not very effective.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
I would love to bring our guest on now. So, James LaVine, welcome to the show.
Hey,
Hello.
James, welcome. Good to see you.
good seeing you too. Thank you for
James,
having me. This is awesome.
Thanks
yeah,
for
would you
being
mind
here.
just starting off with a quick introduction of yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you do at Pax8?
Sure. Let me go to the background a little bit because I'm kind of a grandpa in the industry, which is kind of funny. I actually owned and operated my own MSP for over 25 years. And prior to that, I had other businesses. And in parallel with my MSP, I launched my own marketing company I had for 12 years. But I wasn't servicing technology companies. I was servicing accounting firms and law firms and professional services. However, the basic principles still apply. And now I'm a senior executive coach at Pax8 Academy, coaching, doing instructor-led content or the classes themselves, peer groups, the Phoenix groups, kind of spread across the whole spectrum, working from really micro, small businesses to multi-million-dollar size businesses. And it's really challenging to interact and see all the kind of issues that everyone's facing and see the commonalities between all of them. So it's been quite a journey. Love what I do.
Yeah, and we're so happy that you were able to step up and take a look at this course that we have. We had marketing strategy for MSPs. We had a first version of it that got us started, and it was a little bit more academic, and we
Right.
turned it around a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about the course itself, how we decided to get it started, and then we can dive into the meat of our topic today?
I would love to. So what's interesting is when we were working on the result selling framework on the sales team, we kept running across the same issue we'd hear across all our coaching partners, which was, hey, we're learning how to sell, but we don't have any leads. Or we'd hear, hey, I'm throwing $3, $4, $5,000 a month to an outsourced marketing company, and 12 months later, I'm getting one or two leads in, and they're not even qualified. And so the issue, the real challenge was, how can we focus in as an MSP on getting the right kind of leads so when we take them to the result selling framework, they can close the deals they're looking for. And so it was kind of more like it started with the result selling framework, and then bringing in the marketing side, I saw there's this huge blind spot, and there's a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding of what's going on in the industry. There's a lot of confusion. And so when I saw the original course, I reached out to you, Bessie. I think we need to get some alignment and get some basic understanding, get them focused on what does it mean to do marketing versus something that was hyper academic, which was great when you're hiring somebody, but as an owner or as a partner, it was more challenging. How do I get really, really mega focused on the kind of leads I'm looking for, put myself out there? And so that's what was the impetus for me diving into this course with you.
Now, there's a lot of experience that you're bringing to the table here, firsthand, and helping others. Was there any real big aha moments? Were there any just these flashes of inspiration or things in your own journey as you were kind of learning how to market?
Yeah, there was. Thank you for bringing that up. It's interesting because I know in my own journey, I did exactly the same as everybody else. Wasn't quite sure how to get in the right kind of leads, so I kind of went after everything I could find. I'm going to try LinkedIn. I'm going to try Facebook ads. I'm going to try all these different things. And it was that spaghetti method, right? I'm just going to throw money at something and see what sticks. And it turned out that was not very focused. And for me, I came back to the idea of the blueprint. If I'm going to build a house, I need to get a blueprint. Otherwise, I'm putting a room somewhere, but I have no idea what the house is actually going to look like. And so I decided I need to go back to a strategic look, a planning look, a blueprinting perspective. And that's how I built my business fairly quickly. Once I was able to dial that in, then all the tactics and the pieces, I would find the appropriate ones, save money on the ones that were not effective, and I stuck to the plan. And by implementing that plan, not only did I get a better return on my investments, but the kind of leads I was looking for were very specific and highly qualified. So closing them on the sales side was very easy.
I think my aha was just how much marketing is like this flywheel that's just hard to get spinning, hard to get spinning. But once you get it spinning with all these different aspects, right? You got your website, you got blog posts, you got industry events you're speaking at, newsletters. You know this thing you just have to put all this effort into. But once it's spinning, it starts kicking out the leads.
Definitely. Well,
Well,
James,
yeah.
you brought a few. Oh, sorry.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I want to address that because it's interesting. Rex brought that up because that's exactly how most MSPs do it. The thing is, what if the LinkedIn lead gen is not your path, or Facebook ads, or maybe the people that are best fit for your business, that target client profile you hear us talk about all the time at Academy, what if they're not actually in the right kind of audience, or you're speaking at the wrong associations, wrong engagements? And so when you formulate your strategy, your blueprint, we dial that in. Where are they actually at, and how are we going to reach them? Are we going to pull them in, or are we going to push ourselves out there? What I mean by that is, are we going to do something simple like search engine optimization, where we're tying into keywords and phrases and we're pulling them in, versus, or even display ads and doing conversion offers or some type of special to get them to take the next step to raise their hand saying, yes, I want to be in business with you, versus maybe I go to an event, I'm spending money, I have a booth, and I'm getting nothing. I'm getting nothing happening, no leads. I'm not getting or I get the wrong kind of people, which is probably the worst. Now I just threw money and I'm being insulted by the wrong audience. And so that's really the impetus behind all of this: is how do we focus in on making change and making an impact for a certain specific group of people with what we're doing, and really get away from the academic side of marketing and get back to the human side of, we're here to serve, and through that service, how are we going to impact your life? And that really is the essentials of basic marketing, especially for an MSP.
That's what I loved about the course, is that whole idea of how to think like a marketer and how to have empathy and put yourself in their shoes. And really, we dialed in, and hopefully we'll talk about it today, really getting so granular, much more than I would ever think, about who is this ideal client, or the clients that you're working with, to get in their mind to think, where are they going, and where are they looking, and how can you get in front of them without going so deep. It's hard to know. And so I really appreciated that part of the course too, and all that I've learned from you so far, James.
Well,
Well,
thank
would
you.
you like, should we bring up the slides and take a look at that?
Yes, let's do that. Let's bring up the first one. There's actually quite a few slides, but I just want to narrow it down to a couple for today's program. I think it's really important to think like a marketer is really the concept behind the course. And it goes back to, what does that actually mean? And it's not think like an entrepreneur, or think like a technician, or think like a business owner. It's think like a marketer. And how does a marketer really look at the world? It's different. They have a different mindset. And a good marketer, the very first thing they do is, it kind of goes back to that whole Steve Jobs, make a dent in the universe kind of concept. It's, how am I going to change the world around me? How am I going to make it a difference? And a lot of us got in this business because we're really good technically. We love serving. We like to help, and we pour ourselves into our clients. I like to step back and say, well, wait a minute. What is it they actually need? How are we going to change their world? How are we going to have this great impact on them? And then we design our business around that. So it actually kind of gives a double-edged sword here, where you're making this distinctives. You have this unique selling perspective. You're very unique because you've taken what was a common tool set we all use in the MSP world, and you've defined it down to, I'm going to make this particular subset, this particular type of client, this particular kind of person in this avatar we're going to talk about a little bit later. How do we impact their world? How do we change their world? What are their fears, their concepts, and things that are going on in their life? And how are we going to allay those fears? How are we going to change their world? How are we going to make them just better because our lives are intersecting? We're colliding with them. And so the idea behind thinking like a marketer is, how am I going to affect change? What is going on? What is the actual need, the fears, the challenges, the problems that people are facing? And then how are we going to solve those problems? And that's the beginning of thinking like a marketer. So I like to start off and ask people, what is marketing, right up front? And half the answers I get are, oh, it's sales, or it's putting together some products and making sure we're understood and known for what we have in the marketplace. And during the course, I like to change the thinking a little bit, and it's actually about change. How do you bring change to another person's world? And that's, when you think about that concept, it's actually challenging because we just don't naturally think about that. However, we're all great at marketing. It's a very natural thing. For example, some people use it on the sales side. For me, I like to think, I walk into an area and what are the needs? What's missing here? How could we improve on this or change this or add something else to make it just better and make their lives better, or something more efficient or smoother, or handle issues and fears and challenges that they may be facing on their own that they're too afraid to say out loud. A good marketer will start to feel this and sense it and be able to write things down and start to create this picture in their mind of, if I could create this, or if I could create that, then there would be a massive impact on this group of people. Marketing is about change. Right? That's the easiest way to describe this. We can get into the academic book concepts that are out there, but if you keep going back to, the reason I exist as a business is I'm going to impact change for somebody else and make their life better. Keep it simple and start thinking like a marketer. And if you are, whether you're the owner of the MSP, a principal, a partner, someone in an executive team, it doesn't really matter. Get your mind set around that, right? I'm not here to sell products and push stuff. I'm here to figure out what they need, then create the solution, and then introduce it and solve these people's problems.
But I like the way you asked that question, James, because I think that, for most people, it's a mind change, right? First of all, I know we talk about a lot in the sales peer groups, just kind of an attitude, right? Changing your mindset, right? Really devoting and putting yourself into the mind frame to remove limiting, beliefs and thoughts, and really to put yourself into a good track to sell. But, this isn't something that I think comes natural to a lot of technical business owners, which is a lot of the people in this industry. So I love the way you ask that question to get them think differently. Do you have any other things that come to the top of mind that you've seen where there's a connection made, or where a spark, or where that light bulb goes on for partners that you work with, and they start to think differently, or think about it, or approach it differently, and start finding success and momentum? Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So a lot of times, well, we've been in this industry a long time. We know how it's really done. A lot of times it's the technical mindset. We have these tools and we just do our thing. And the challenge is we're just like everybody else, a race to the bottom, especially in our profitability. But I found that the people who have a servant mindset, who really their main driving factor is they just want to serve and they want to do a great job and really bring just the excellence in all that they do. If I can hear that mindset, then I can just ask a couple of quick questions to get them to flip over. Okay, that's wonderful. But have you thought about the people in your life, Let's just talk about your family. Let's talk about the people around you. If you could make a couple small changes to their life, how would their life be better? And how would you be perceived in that? And just kind of shift their thinking in that way. And I guess what? It's no different in business. It's exactly the same. People do business with people, and we're all about making a difference and making change in their lives around us. And I always like to say that the more impact we have and the more change and the better we can make people's lives, and the more, then your business will grow and grow and grow. It'll be unlimited. It's just like Apple and some of the big companies, right? They had these ideas and they wanted to make an impact or a change, and look how large they are. So it's a proven methodology and it works. The hard part is, how do you get this technical mindset to shift into thinking? And nobody really likes to talk about this, but it's the human aspect, talking about people and interacting with them. And sometimes what I'll do with someone who has a real technical mindset, they're really struggling and they're sticking around process, and say, well, hold on, well, how do we redefine a process when we're engaging a person? Are you technical in all your engagements with your friends, your family, your coworkers? Or do you actually humanize those conversations a little bit and start to drive a little bit deeper into what's going on in your world? How do you think about this? And when you're asking those kind of questions, then you start to go, I see something here. I see a pattern. It seems there's a commonality of all these things that they're afraid of or they're challenged with. Maybe there's an opportunity here for me to come up with a solution or an answer to make their life better. And that's how you think like a marketer. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think, when we forget the human element, I think is important again. So even with so many of our partners, when we start this journey off, okay, I know I need to get into sales. What is it defining it? You also mentioned like a blueprint and a plan. I think the technical mind can think through, painting a picture of problem solving or the technical parts, right? The tools, the bits, the byte, how this works, and the features and specs. But that's not what connects with people, right? And
Yeah.
I've also heard, in a lot of conversation about the buying journey, right? And how do we think about that? And we're so focused on selling and pushing out and kind of, this is what we do and why we're good, and the bits and the bytes. And if you just, sometimes I think people forget about the buyer's journey. Can you talk a little bit about how we can kind of connect and understand? Bessie had said the word empathy. What are some good ways to think about that human element and connect with people and understanding how they buy from us?
Yeah. In fact, let's go to the next slide because it'll start tying it together. So when you're thinking about,
Segue.
yeah, when you're thinking about making change, well, obviously now we got to start narrowing down to who we're going to make change for. And before we get into the tactical side of the buyer's journey, how they're going to find you, how does this solution, how you're going to change the world, impact the world, what does branding look like, and all the other elements of marketing, we always got to go back to the basics of who exactly are we making this impact for. And I know Bessie's heard me say this 100 times. We can't boil the ocean. We've got to narrow this down. You're going to find that your impact and change and how you're going to rock someone's world is very specific down to a group of people, or might even a very, very specific subset of even a bigger group. And it's important that your solution isn't for everyone. And you got to get that through your head as a marketer. You're going to find some of the most successful marketers and marketing companies or product-driven companies, software companies, it doesn't really matter. If they think like a marketer, then they're narrowing down to a very specific type of client that they're searching for, a customer. And then before we can get into any of the tactics of where do they live, how do we reach them, what's the journey and everything else, we have to go to this next piece, which is who are they specifically and how do we get into their world? And we create something called an avatar or a persona that represents the whole of who we're making this impact for. And this is a little different. You'll find out if you take the marketing strategy course, the ILC, I go into a deep dive into this. In fact, it's a very detailed piece of the homework However, it's critical to put into this because this is going to be your representation of the perfect client you have. We call them a target client profile, ideal client profile, perfect client, but it's going to be a representation. And what we start off with the basic demographics, where they located, how much money, the size, business, so forth, so on, that you've determined that this solution that you're going to impact and make this change for, this is the specific group we want to go for. But then I get into something called the psychographics, where you start dialing into what's their education level. Are they married, not married, children, not children, the books they read, the magazines, where do they, what's their favorite associations, clubs, what do they do for their pastime, who do they like to hang out with? Are they into philanthropy? And so we start to build out this dossier, very, very detailed. And the more detailed, the better. It's usually the first version is a little rough, but as you continue to market, you're going to get more and more clarity, more and more details. And you can start to define it down to, I like to say you can concatenate it down to a simple name or a picture that represents the whole of who you're marketing for and impacting. And in our examples, you'll find out in the ILC, in this particular course, that we have examples of a name. Like I had one called Francois that we did with a coaching partner and did this exercise with them. And for them, there was a CEO. We did a full dossier, their education level, where they live, what they do in their pastime, everything. And so it doesn't seem like that would be, or maybe it's too deep, but what we're doing is I can start to realize what kind of fears and challenges and problems that they're personally facing. And then how does my solutions and the impact that we're making in our business going to change their world? And so all of a sudden now the conversation is, I can look at this picture, this name, and I'm talking to a person, not a group as a whole, and it becomes very personal. Now I'm having a personal conversation with a representation avatar, and I can take them down that buyer's journey. And I can also figure out, well, since they're on Facebook or LinkedIn or maybe Instagram, or maybe they're on X, and however I need to reach them, because that's where they're living. You'll hear this in the results selling framework courses with Keith is, fish where the fish are. Well, guess what? We're doing the exact same thing in the marketing side. Where do they live? Where are we going to apply our dollars as we're building out our strategy? Because later, as we get into the tactics, we now know, okay, if I'm going after this particular person who represents the whole, then now I know specifically areas that I should be focused on and areas that I should not be focused on. I'm not going to waste my money here. It's less effective, right? Or just a total waste of money. And so that's how we use a buyer persona, and we create this avatar around it to be very clear and direct in how we're very hyper-focused on meeting them where they're at, what are their needs, and how does our impact, our change, our solution going to make their world better. Then we find them, then we start to engage them in the language they understand. The other reason we do the avatar is it also, we haven't talked about this yet, but when you get into the conversion factor, then what ends up happening is, yeah, we're generating leads, but now you got to do something. How do you convert them? Well, as you're looking at that avatar, this representation of who they are, you can shift your language and start to say, this is how I'm going to do my copywriting, because this is how I would talk to Francois, or this is how I'd talk to Joe or Sally or whoever who's that representation. And all of a sudden, I don't need to spend all this money on a copywriter. I'm got to talk to one person, and how would I explain this to them? And then based upon that, copywriting is easy for my website.
Which I know it's hard, though, to do that. I am talking to partners and they're figuring out who's in their dossier, and they even have it's hard enough to just figure out who's your target client profile, to then think of a whole avatar for them, asking even more detailed questions. It's really tough to do that. Do you have any advice for partners as they're going through that, or what do you really recommend that they think about as they're building?
In fact, we have a slide on that. If you don't mind pulling up the next slide. This is where it gets interesting. And this is probably the hardest exercise of them all. It makes people extremely uncomfortable. It is so hard to be empathetic. And for you to actually put yourself in the shoes of this perfect client, this avatar, this person that you've defined, now you've actually got to start thinking like them. And think about that for a second. To think like another human being, to actually try to feel what they feel and put yourself literally in their shoes is extremely challenging for a lot of people. One, it can make you very uncomfortable. And two, it's just hard. especially if you have a technical mindset, right? You're missing that interactive human element, but that's where empathy comes in. A good marketer will empathize. They got to be able to feel and understand what it's like to be in their shoes. And the second you do that, the second you fully can grasp what it's like, then what ends up happening is you start to come up with these wonderful questions, and you start to realize, wow, they do have some unique challenges, or they don't want to look like a fool at their business, or they want to make sure they look like the hero to their employees or to their boss. And so you see some of the common human empathy challenges that are out there, but then you start to see some other ones, like, how do they grow their business? They're struggling with that, or they're struggling with efficiencies and things we talk about in Academy all the time. We got so many great classes on. But when you think like a marketer and you start to empathize, put yourself in their shoes, that's when you get clear definition of, let's narrow down exactly all these other outside pieces. Let's don't guess. Let's put ourselves in their shoes, and now we can start to make changes in how we're going to talk to this person. I know what it's like to be in your shoes. I've been in your shoes. I can talk to you, and I can share how I felt about this. Here's our solution for that. For example, we started off we started off the program talking about some of the background, and I've gone through this myself. So now, like, I can share those stories, and since I've been in those shoes, I understand fully what it's like to throw money, hand over fist, and have it wasted because I wasn't dialed in on a good strategy. And so now when I look at other MSP business owners or technology service provider owners or partners or execs, I get it fully, some of the issues they're facing, because I've been in those shoes. And so I can be very empathetic because I've been there. I can feel their pain. I know exactly where it's going, how they feel, how they look, even if they can't verbalize it. And this is one of the places where we have to start with empathy. This is one of the hardest pieces of being a marketer and thinking like a marketer. What do you think, Rex?
James, can you talk a second about the difference between selling when you can have that conversation with them and discover the pain so you can understand where to apply the empathy, and doing marketing where you don't have that opportunity to get the feedback? You have to try and hit the message that
Yeah.
they're gonna relate to the pain that they're having when it's sort of a
Yeah.
one direction.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's a great question. So on the sales side, I'm going to flip to this sales conversation briefly. I like to call that, it's very relational. I call it relational capital. So I get to engage this person, and I'm looking at them eyeball to eyeball or conversation, and I can get direct feedback, and I can adjust, and I'm getting, here's question, answer, here's what's going on, and I can go several levels deep and really dial deeper into that. When you're doing marketing, I have to have a representation of a whole and do my best to put myself in their shoes. And it may not be 100%, but it could be close enough, or should be close enough, that I can shift the conversation, whether it's online in words or in pictures or in a video or maybe even a speech that I put out to an audience, that the people that I wrote this for are specifically, they're going to hear the trigger words. They're going to hear things specifically geared towards them, and the rest should not even listen to it because it's not for them. I didn't empathize for the whole audience. It's very specific. Versus sales, I got the direct interaction, direct one-on-one, and I can adjust. And that's why I like to say it's relational capital versus a very focused, empathetic conversation. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and you actually just triggered me by saying trigger words. I was thinking about story brand because you used the word hero earlier, and in story brand they talk about a big mistake in marketing is making the vendor come off as the hero, when ultimately you want to make the person you're targeting come off as a hero, and
Yep.
the marketing, you're positioning the vendor as a guide to help them be a hero. Any thoughts on that?
No, 100%. In fact, when you're doing your avatar persona, keep that in mind, right? One of the reasons that we drive deeper into the empathy and uncover and let all the challenges and fears they have bubble to the surface, it is almost for that exact reason, is how can the solution guide them and lead them so they are the hero of their own story. And we become that sage that provides the right kind of solution that helps them become the person that they were meant to be in their business, right? So that's impact, right? That's change, that's empathy, that's really making a difference in their lives. That was great. I love that. That's a great question. Bessie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you're going over this, I'm like, I always, when I was an undergrad, it's like, oh, those business students, like, oh, business marketing, like, I'm not going to want to do that. I'm like, hear you talk, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have been a marketer. Like, oh, you really just change your mind about this whole aspect that I didn't really think about before, and as a way to connect with people, a way to like understand people. I know like, Chris and I both have like a psychology background a bit. There's a lot of those elements that really do help and don't you know can help you to understand what someone's thinking about, how to connect with them, and how to not just sell them something, but how to make their lives
Mm.
better, create a change for them that they want to hear. So I really connected with that part of it. I don't know, Chris, did any of that resonate with you?
Well, back to that change of the mind change, right? That hero concept that's huge because I think Rex and James, you're right. I think the natural inclination is to think I need to be the hero. That's what this marketing thing is. It's me being the hero and presenting through marketing to people that want to be saved, and that's not the journey. The journey is to the impact on them, and I love that analogy because I think that really helps us change our mindset about the role and how we can be effective and know that prospect, that client, that person, that's who we want to change, be impacted. We want to make them the hero. That's such a great story to connecting. And I keep coming back to changing your mindset because so much of it is, oh, everything's great. I just need more leads. And I need more of this.
Mm.
And oh, this is who I serve. And I think that it's the other thing too, James. Let me ask this question. Um, Time, effort. Do you ever get the sense for the partners are asking, like, I think it's human nature, where's the easy button? Just tell
Mm.
me, I do this one thing and now all of a sudden it's all fixed. They may wave the magic wand. Talk a little bit about your own experiences with the amount of effort it takes to really make this work.
Mm. That's great, Chris. I love that question because you know what? It's the main thing that I like to say the difference between a good marketing strategy and the blueprint versus going after low hanging fruit in sales is you can go out prospect and you can go after what we call the low hanging fruit or something you can turn around within 30, 60, 90 days. A good marketing strategy, it is very cerebral. It takes time. You've got to think this through. You've got to really strategize and empathize. And it is incredibly challenging. And even with a team, it can be hard. And then you're going to go back each iteration. It's going to get better and better. But initially, it's really difficult. However, even with the first version, you start planting the right kind of seeds. It goes
Mhm.
back to that farming concept. Marketing is about planting seeds. You want to have leads to really feed your sales team and feed your business in the long run. Develop the strategy, figure out exactly who you're going after, impact and change, and do all the exercises, the hard work. And it's really challenging. Within 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half, you should have a bountiful harvest, I like to say, because you did the hard work. And if you're off, it'll be really evident because you're going to have zero conversions and you're going to have some challenges, or you're not going to have enough leads coming in. In fact, go to the next slide because I want to kind of pull this back a little bit for the MSPs and I want to think about marketing in general. A lot of times it gets really complicated, and I know Bessie's heard me say this a dozen times that there's only three things you have to focus on. And so when you're thinking about how challenging marketing is going to be and all the things you got to think about, I always go, no, 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 no. There's three things. It's traffic, conversions, and then I call it the referral flywheel or rinse and repeat. And the idea is that there's really only two types of traffic. It's push and pull. And so after you figured out your avatar and where they live, then you just got to decide, okay, do I do an SEO kind of campaign, or am I going to do display ads, or how am I going to create this marketing engine, the tactics that feed the strategy? But the other side is the conversion. Everybody forgets this piece. They forget, oh, what's the verbiage on the website? How am I going to convert them? How are they going to take actions? How do I even engage them? What engagement channel are they going to utilize? Is it going to be a texting, SMS, website chat kind of situation, or is it an email? Is it a phone call? And so we got to do the conversion factor, and the conversion also is our representation to them. Hey, you saw what we're doing online, whether we did a push campaign or a pull campaign, but now how do we actually engage you? You've responded to everything we said. Now, how can we show you that we are truly the company for you? And this is where you can take these conversion leads and then pass them off to your sales team, right? And that's where the result selling framework comes in that we have at Academy.
I love that you're connecting that back to the result selling framework, right? This topic is marketing, casting
Yeah,
that net, trying to get the leads that we will use in the result selling framework to go talk to people. So thanks for bringing that
exactly.
back.
Yeah, that's where this all came from, because we were working on the result selling framework and I kept hearing it round and round. This is great, but we don't have enough leads. We don't have enough leads, or thousands of dollars to these outsourced marketing companies. And I basically said, if you had a strategy, you could reduce your costs dramatically, because you could hand another company a blueprint and tell them very clearly and define, this is where they live, here's who we're targeting, this is the impact, this is the solution, this is our distinctives, this is what makes us unique. Now give us this type of lead. And guess what? That is a marketer's dream. When I had my marketing company, if somebody gave me that kind of detail, wow, I could go fishing immediately for them, versus me having to create a strategy and take months to define that. And so, yeah. And at Academy, we have so many great things that are happening. And I can tell you this, that if we can get you to start thinking like a marketer, especially as an MSP owner, and forget all the elaborate, crazy stuff that's out there, and really just think down to the basics, the change you're going to bring, the empathy, and the impact for a very specific type of people or group of people, it's going to change everything in your business. You might even dump some of your extra tools and you might reset something. And I haven't talked about the whole red ocean, blue ocean strategy, but just by doing this alone, might even find that you can find a blue ocean that no one's even thinking about, because you took the time to step into their shoes and create this wonderful dossier, an avatar that represents this whole area of how you're going to make this massive change and impact for them, and another distinctive you can have. So any thoughts?
I would say too, another course or another topic that kind of bridges between marketing as a strategy to result selling framework and qualifying is prospecting. And I know Keith has a
Mm,
whole course on prospecting tactics, and he spoke about
hmm
it a little bit today in the sales pitch around having events or hosting events and different strategies around that. Do you mind speaking a little bit to that connection, or we've talked a little bit about quite a bit about how the avatar and your target client profile connects with
hmm
who you want to be, future prospect, but some of those other tactics there that can help people get there.
Yeah, I've worked with Keith on this. In fact, he and I had a great conversation between the marketing and the sales side. And just think long-term marketing, right? We're
Mhm.
planting those seeds, going back to that whole farming analogy I was shared a few minutes ago, versus the
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit, those that are people of your centers of influence, people you actually know, people who are already in one of your spheres. There's somebody you can tap into to go after immediate money, or get immediate meetings, versus how do I reach out to this large group of people somewhere that we've defined down to, and then what's the right avenue to reach them, and then what's the right verbiage based on the persona set. So there really are two different things. Just kind of remember that the marketing is the bigger picture that is going to feed your sales funnel at some point. And by the way, I want to point this out. It's very critical that when you are doing a good marketing strategy, we call them market qualified leads, but that's not really what you want. You want to be able to filter through and get all these leads that are actually sales qualified leads. And so what I mean by that is, we don't use the market qualified leads as a vanity metric, which you'll hear a lot of marketing companies, oh, I got you 1,000 leads. Well, actually one of them turned into a sales lead because it was the only one who's really qualified for sales. The better metric to go by is a sales qualified lead. So you've dialed it in. This is exactly what we're going after, our TCP, target client profile. And now, as I get these leads, I can pass them over to sales. They're going to start converting and closing much faster. And so hopefully I explained the difference between prospecting versus the marketing side.
Very much.
Definitely.
I know it can get a little
Well,
complicated. And it definitely can get, and that's why, that's Bessie, I shared this with you. When I was seeing all the MSP business owners struggling with this, I'm like, we've got to make this simple. They're overcomplicating this. It's traffic conversions and referral flywheel, round and round we go, and just get it set in place. And once it's there, this thing will outlive your company. Uh, I, even though I exited my company a couple of years ago, I still get some leads. I'm like, oh, I forgot to turn that off. And so it still happens. It's like, oh, it's beautiful when it works. So
And one other plug too, if you're thinking about the referral flywheel, Jeremy Nelson has a course that's called Selling to Your Perfect Client. And it helps someone start thinking about who's their target client profile. How do I talk to them? We go over a whole elevator pitch exercise and really practicing those skills. And then the main focus is on how do I get referrals? So many MSPs that we talk to, they're like, oh, I haven't done anything with marketing because I've got such a good referral system. Not even realizing that is your marketing strategy. You're working on it. Just need to refine it and add to it. And so that's one other little plug there. But
oh, that's a great plug, Bliss. Just so you know, we have so many great courses. If you're watching this and you're not sure where to start, take my ILC and get into the marketing strategy. Definitely get into Jeremy's and Keith's. We have result selling framework. We've got referral system, selling your perfect client. We have so many ways to help you because we want to see you successful, and that's why we're doing all this. It's a labor of love, and this is the way we're showing impact for you, right? So I eat my own dog food in this sense, and this is my way of stepping into your shoes because I was there. I have empathy. How we're making change for you specifically. That's what this course was all about. And if you can get the blueprint in place, then all the tactics will fall into place. And all of a sudden, you're no longer wasting money. Then you're going to go after the right fishing hole. You're going to have the right seeds, the right bait. Everything's going to happen. And you're going to see your business explode.
James, if you can comment on something real quick. This morning, I was on with our Phoenix peer groups, which is kind of like our business startup clients. They're kind of getting their own business flywheel running. And last July, we all worked on their business plans, which included a marketing plan. And this morning, we started reviewing how their progress is on their business plans. And it was pretty much exactly what I expected. It was like, the short story is they were too busy with the tyranny of the urgent to work on the things that they put in their business plan. And I explained that this is part of getting in a cycle of working your business plan is having this moment where you realized you didn't work on stuff. One of the things in there that was just not worked on was marketing plans. Any comments on that?
Yeah, usually, especially on the smaller MSPs, ones that are, I know the Phoenix groups intimately. So the smaller MSPs, they don't need to get as elaborate. However, we can do some basic exercise. They should still have a basic idea of how they're going to impact their particular market, whether it's geographically or a specific vertical or some area that they have some intimate knowledge in. What I mean by that is, did they come from that background, or do they know the verbiage of a specific type of person, and how are they going to impact that change? And then do a really basic empathy exercise of, here's the things they're facing. Here's how we can solve them. Let's tie it all together. And here's how we're going to make a change for them. And then create a persona exercise of who they're going to be talking to. Then that's where, even at a marketing level, they may not have the money to start investing yet, but they can start branding themselves around that as, hey, I specialize in X, Y, and Z, and we've solved these problems before. And then they can take some of the classes, the results selling framework, and be able to tie it into, okay, now I'm in front of people. I have people to talk to. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we close the deals. And so on a real basic level, that's the best way to do it. As your company grows and matures, we got to throw more money at it. Then, as we all know, as you grow the MSP, we've got to start getting more and more leads in because we need more to generate more revenue, because we got to keep feeding and paying for all the employees and really spreading our message of impact. So, but at a basic level, sure, that's exactly the route I would go.
well,
Great answer.
James,
Thank
we
you.
are getting close to the end of our hour. So, is there any last comments or advice or thoughts you would like to leave us with?
Yes, if you are struggling to get your leads, you're not sure where to start, I highly recommend that you jump on this ILC that we have on marketing strategies for MSPs. I will definitely make sure that it's simplified for you. We will come up with a strategy. It becomes your actually marketing plan as we build it out in the course. And then after the plan is built, then we find the proper tactics, the one or two that's going to actually make a difference and impact in your business. And you can put the others aside and not waste money, because you don't have time to waste, and you're going up against a lot of others out there throwing money all over the place. And you're going to find that you're going to save thousands a month in your marketing
Thank you so much, James. If you're a partner listening and you want to take this course, we have the link in our notes below. We also have a link to many on-demand free courses that you can take as well that touch on some of the topics we've talked about today. So thank you so much, James, for joining us and for being here. And next, we're going to take a quick look back into how far we've come with Academy Live. So let's take a look.
Welcome
To Academy Live.
So as we said, this is Academy Live. This is where we'll be bringing you content that you want to see every week to help you grow your business. And this is our very first show. It's the first of many to come.
Academy Live is really designed to empower MSPs to learn and grow the way that best suits them.
How to grow and mature your business on demand, instructor-led, peer, and coaching. It's understanding what made businesses tick. I think Keith hit a home run with that one.
Building those relationships before something is urgent is really important.
How many businesses don't have a tangible product?
You've got a pretty strong following on LinkedIn, right? That took a little bit of time to build up, didn't it?
Yeah, like I didn't know what it was 20 years ago, but I got connected and just been kind of building that following ever since. I was a guest on Academy Live today, and I learned 3 things. There's a lot going on in the product dev side, trying to keep up with what's going on, from Microsoft and the needs of the partners. I know we have a lot of stuff in Academy. Go to academy.pax8.com. We've got an NCE hub with just chock full of information. There's the NCE blog on the Pax8 website because we want to find those answers for you. Think about what you're going to do differently starting tomorrow.
Bye.
I think the first thing I noticed is how nervous we all looked in the first show. Now it's just sort of old hat.
You can see we tried to each one of us say, welcome to Academy Live. We quickly got rid of that.
People don't know the delay is like 2 seconds.
Yeah, that didn't fly. We've come a long way, though. It's a lot more polished. Like you said, Rex, the comfort, right? And like, okay, what about this? What about that? There's so much behind the scenes. We have such an amazing team that produced this. Wow. A year, though. Can you guys believe? I mean, what strikes your mind when you hear that it's been a year?
Well, based on the gray in my beard changes, I think we can see that. No, it seems like I blink. I still do the look up when I'm thinking thing, so I'm trying to get over that. But the thing I noticed in my life, the months and years click by a lot faster. The more when I started making house payments, it's like, wait, I just paid that, and that's the measure that I try to connect time to.
Bessie, how about you?
Yeah, I think, this has been so fun. I think we all came together not sure what to expect, and every week we have fun, we learn something new, and we get to teach something new too. So it's a lot of fun. We get to, talk to really amazing guests. We get to know one another. I think before we started the show, I was like, I almost never chatted with Rex, and now I get to chat with him every week. So I feel very lucky. It's all a lot of fun, and we, really do enjoy this time together with our viewers and with each other. So it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, anything else?
I just one of my favorite things is when you talk to somebody. I know I've had that experience. I think all 3 of us have had that experience where like somebody will reference something from the show, or Bessie, I know you've been recognized. You had someone say, "Oh yeah, you talked about this on the show, and that made a huge difference." Or I went and did this thing that I learned, or you talked about, and that made a difference. That to me is just the most powerful thing.
It cracked me up when Bessie got asked for an autograph. That was awesome.
Someone said they were starstruck, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, please don't!" but you can, come up to us at Beyond and ask for autographs. We're happy to give them if we're able to be there. But we love making the impact. I love talking to a partner who said that they watched a show and came to an instructor-led course or signed up for a peer group. We want to be that connector so that you come to Academy events or activities or offerings that we have so that we can help you continue to, as you help yourself, to grow your business and do the hard work that it takes to get there.
Okay.
I'd like to kind of wrap up by thanking PAX 8 Studios for making all of this available. Everybody behind the scenes, Jen Houlihan especially for being our producer, helping us put together these shows every week. It's been awesome. Thank you all.
Agreed.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for watching today and for the last year. Next week, we'll be back with another episode of Academy Live. We'll be talking about creating a culture of documentation, and documentation is so important for MSPs. And so we're going to be dedicating our show next week to it. We'll be talking about another instructor-led course that's coming all about documentation. So we hope that you tune in next week, 2 p.m. Mountain Time or on demand always. Rex, want to close us out?
As always, I'd like you to think about what you're going to do differently tomorrow when you come into the office. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Like and subscribe.